Let me give you share a story. So when we
Okay.
moved from Chicago, which we loved,
Hmm.
but we wanted to get back to the East Coast because that's
Yeah.
where both of our families were, and it was like,
Hmm.
it was time.
Right.
So we moved back, and I had a bunch of different jobs I was exploring. I decided to take the job with ADP, and I remember the first day I get there, nobody who was my boss or bosses, nobody's anywhere to me. They're all on vacation or traveling. And I go,
Welcome to the new job.
an admin sends me to the to the office. He said, "Here's your office." I go into my office. There's my boxes, and I just sit in my chair, empty my boxes, and then I literally stare at the wall, going, "What the hell have I done? Like I know nobody, I don't even know what to do. Like what do I do? Like where's my staff? Nobody
Is there
could
a
tell me
pencil
anything."
sharpener and pencils?
It was terrible. So
Oh,
so then I never forget. I found a printer because I had to print some things off. This was like the second day. I printed a document off, and some woman, as I'm taking the thing off, this is back in the day we printed stuff, starts yelling at me that I'm using her printer and I don't have authorization to use her printer. And
oh,
I'm
jeez.
like, where am I? Like it's like I just like, and
Yeah.
so it's funny, I never forgot that woman just laying me out. Uh, and
And how long did she work there after
so
she
so
found out that you were
I had
superior?
I did have a vendetta. So years later, I acquired different groups and so forth. Found out she was in my group, and I'm like, bring her into my office. So
Let's
scheduled a
talk.
meeting, and she didn't remember it at all. And I
Yeah.
told her the story, and she was mortified. And I said, just want to let you know, you got to be careful what you say to people, right? I mean, you this is like
Yeah.
a small world. I'm forgotten about it now, but I want to let you know how you made me feel.
Yeah,
So
and what goes around sometimes can't come around, and you
that's
don't.
right.
It's not. It can be ugly.
The
It's got
the
potential.
we had to get there before the kids started school. Nobody they didn't know any of their
Yeah.
friends. It was
Right.
hard, Timmy. It was really, and it took us at least 6 months, probably a year, to feel like we actually had friends and felt
Hmm.
comfortable. So I can't believe it's different for ball players.
No. What? Why would it be?
No.
Again, especially. If you're talking younger children, okay, that's one thing. They adapt a lot quicker. But once you get kids that are 9, 10 into the early teens, they've got their peer groups pretty well defined, and uprooting and making those changes, it's challenging. It really is. There's a lot of factors that, again, because we look at raw data and stats and numbers, etc. Maybe we should be factoring some of those moves into the equation and downshifting on some of those players that are making moves simply because of the challenges they're facing.
Yeah, I mean Carlos Correa is another player that's not
Hmm.
done all that well.
Yeah.
And he's probably going to go back into free agency because he's got the opt out.
Yeah.
And so it's just there's another big shortstop class coming up and some really good players like Trey Turner. It's a first round draft pick, and I don't
Hmm.
know, Timmy. I might pass on him because there's a lot of other very good players. Let's also talk about, just as we're sitting here close to the midway point, give me a couple of strategies, not necessarily with your two industry leagues, but just what are you doing in teams that you've got, you're in the money, or teams that you're way out of the money? What are you doing?
Well, I think one of the important things is you've got to start looking at categories very, very closely. I've got some leagues where I'm sitting sixth to ninth, somewhere in that range. Okay. Well, you take a look at the categories where you can pick up points. You might trade from a category where you can't pick up points, but try and max out as best you can. And one thing I've got to really emphasize is don't worry about value for value or perceived value for value. Look at those categories. You can make trades that on paper look very lopsided, quite possibly in the other person's favor. But if it addresses the needs that your team has, at the end of the day, you can pick up points for it. So I think sometimes we're too enamored with the idea that I'm giving up player A, and player A is worth X. I've got to get X back. No, what you've got to get back is you've got to get back counting stats that you need. And if it is a lesser per se player, that's not necessarily a bad thing as long as you're moving forward. And I think quite often people get hung up. I made a trade offer to somebody in one of my leagues today because I've got Shohei Ohtani and I can use him either as a pitcher or a hitter. Well, I've got Nate Lowe, so I've got some depth at first base. So I offered this guy Vlad Guerrero Jr. for Alex Manoah and Doval in San Francisco. He's got extra pitching. Now, would you really want to give up Guerrero? You know what I mean? If you look at the value, I think Guerrero is the better player. But making that move allows me to get Ohtani into my UT slot, out of pitching. Manoah replaces Ohtani, and my team is better for it all the way around. So, again, sometimes the perceived value of players, I think we over delve into, we've got to get this level of value back. No, you got to get the stats that generate numbers that make your team a better team overall.
Since I primarily play in the Dynasty League, Timmy, I wholeheartedly agree with what you said, and I think it even goes double, triple for Dynasty Leagues because those leagues are so hard to win.
Yep.
And if you've got young players that you feel like are going to be stars, and you can trade them to bring in the piece that you need to win this year, you have to do it. You have to do it.
Yeah, it's not a topic of discussion.
Right.
If you decide to put off for this year when you've got a chance to finish first or second, I know legitimate chance, and you pass up that opportunity because you're going to win it next year, good luck. Next year might never arrive. You might have 8 pitchers on the IL by the beginning of May. You don't know what the future is going to hold, and if you've got a shot in a competitive Dynasty League to do it now, do it. Don't worry about next year. Next year will be fine.
What I found with Dynasty Leagues is I win, Timmy, when out of nowhere players push me over the top. The Mark Melancon with the 40 saves. The Adolis Garcia that I picked up at the beginning of the year that goes 23 home runs and 15. That's where you win, right?
Yep.
And sometimes you got to add those players throughout the year that you don't have, and I just think that's so important. So if you got, my top 100, Timmy, as you know, comes out on the 4th, so July 4th. Timmy and I will be talking about it on the 5th, and you've got some of the got a top 25 player, and he can give you Alek Manoah, then go for it.
Well, yeah, and it all goes back, when we're discussing these strategies, to something that I've emphasized for a number of years and will continue moving forward. When you get players in the free agent pool that get off to a hot start in April, spend the money on them because you're getting potentially 5 to 6 months worth of statistics, and it's those players that come out of nowhere early on in the season that make a huge difference to your team. So again, it sort of rolls back into my FAB strategy and getting those guys as early as, that pop up in April, roll the dice on them because Garcia, hey, by May he wasn't available. You spent the money early, took a chance, and reaped the rewards. And you're not always going to reap rewards, but you got to take a chance on doing it. If you don't take the chance, you know what you're ending up with, right? Nothing.
Yeah, so I did that, and I'm trying to change the way I play the game. I've always played the game looking at, that guy's not really that good. And then I have a tendency to bid too low on him. But Tim brought up a player on Sunday that I knew about, right? I mean, I know who Derek Hall is. He plays for the Philadelphia Phillies. He's 26. Cena plays a big man, probably a DH, first base. And my old Rich Wilson said, he's not that good. Don't get him. But I said, you know what? Tim is smart. He brings this guy up. He might get the call up. Bryce Harper is down. They're looking for anybody that can do anything. So I picked him up, Timmy, in a lot of leagues. Now, as I tweeted back at you, I'm stupid by picking him up because it makes no sense to pick him up. But I'm not insane to have already put him in my lineup and sit somebody like Anthony Rizzo, for instance, right? I'm not that dumb.
Yeah.
So
No,
I have him sitting. But look, he had a great game yesterday. I don't know if this guy's going to be any good. Tim doesn't know if this guy's going to be any good.
Nope.
But all the stars are lined up for an opportunity. And I went and got, and I was very happy for that I actually made that move because I typically don't do it. And maybe I got something.
Well, you can play conservatively, but at the same point in time, my mantra's always been about opportunities to play, combined with, of course, some skill and ability. But I'm happy for you because that's a big step. Because you traditionally 5 years ago, you would look at this guy and said, "No, he's at best."
That's right.
A utility type player.
Yep.
And
which the strong likelihood that's what he is, and probably won't make it. But Tim, if he has a good 2 months like Aristides at Quano did, you can win a league.
You're darn tootin' you can win a league. Yeah, exactly. And we're not married to these players. Hey, if it doesn't work out, we move on. So I was happy for you. I'm glad you picked him up, and I'm wishing you well moving forward.
It only cost me like 10, 12, $15, so in a $1,000 budget. So it was a minor. I had to bid him a little higher because you had already put him on the list. So, but that's the way it goes. Timmy, let's take a break. Get back. That's not even our Take 10 with Tim. We're going to start this. We got a lot of questions from Mr. McLeod.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun. It's going to be a fun morning. Already has been.
Probably have to go an hour and 10 minutes, Tim. I hope that's okay.
That is not a problem. It's Canada Day, so it's a holiday. So, hey, what better way to spend a holiday than talking baseball?
Yeah, there you go. So, Timmy, it was. This is kind of a weird report. It was reported over the weekend that Casey Close, who is Freddie Freeman's agent, a famous agent. I guess Boris is probably the most famous of the baseball agents, and Casey Close is probably a close second. I mean, this is a significant guy, well respected in the industry. But apparently, it was reported, and then everybody picked it up, that he did not give Freddie Freeman the Braves' final offer. And apparently, when Freeman found this out when he was in Atlanta, he wasn't very happy. So the speculation is the tears he was showing as he was getting his ring were not only tears of joy but tears of sadness as well. So it was kind of a bummer, right? You see him crying, and then you realize that maybe he really wanted to stay with the Braves, and he takes the job with Los Angeles instead. So I think if this is all true, Timmy, this is not good. I mean, you cannot do that as an agent. That's how you get fired. And, and Freeman fired him. So,
what are the parameters that these agents work under? What obligations and commitments do they have to their clients?
They're supposed to tell them. I know this, Tim, because I work. You are obligated to tell them every offer, just like an attorney who gets a plea bargain from a prosecutor. You have to go to your client and you're obligated by law to do that. And most of these agents are lawyers. I mean, I don't know if the law applies to offers, but it's. I mean, that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So it is the client's decision, in this case, Freddie Freeman's decision, not Casey Close's decision to make that call.
Yeah, there's a lot we don't know.
Now, Close apparently is looking at he denies it all and says they're looking at legal, the possibility of going after the reporter who brought it up. But I don't know. When Ken Rosenthal picks it up and starts talking about other things that are going on, you start to believe it a little bit.
Yeah, and you know what? Is it a knee-jerk reaction by Freeman?
Could be. Having a tough year, not making friends, struggling. I mean, just the stuff I just talked about.
The wife hates L.A. Yeah, hey, who knows? Who knows what's going on behind the scenes? We certainly don't. But all I do know is that Freddie Freeman is being paid very handsomely by the Los Angeles Dodgers to play baseball. Now, if he wanted to be in Atlanta and he didn't get that option, well, he has a right to be upset and move on. I don't know. We don't know. We don't have the details. So, and we probably never